Today on the ATL box score, we get into what happened during the weekend with the NFL playoffs, some college basketball action, and also some NBA hoops. Then we have Mike Brumagen on the show to break down the NBA for us and tell us about all the goings-on that's happening in the league. This is the ATL Box Score podcast with Alex Berger, and this show is recapping the weekend. Guys, I just want to tell you the biggest secret in the Atlanta business community. And I don't know why it's such a big secret, but I use them for all my resources to get my work done to promote my brand. And they are right off of Peachtree Street in Midtown Atlanta. And if you're a small business owner or you're trying to get your foot in the door in the Atlanta area or you work from home, well, you need to check out Spaces Midtown East. And you're probably like, what Spaces? Well, Spaces is one of the premier brands in the co-working industry. And yes, the co-working industry has come up in the past couple of years. And I tell you, guys, I got to tell you this. If you're looking for office space, if you're looking for a place to do work and you're tired of coffee shops, you're tired of working out of your house, you need to check out Spaces Midtown. Yes, there's other attractive brands out there, and trust me, I've been part of them. Spaces is above the rest. And here to tell you more about Spaces Midtown, I actually have one of the managers there who's managed a lot of different centers, even with the Regis brand. But Steve is going to tell you more about, we have Steve Choi going to tell you more about Spaces Midtown.
Hey, Alex, thanks for that awesome introduction and that great compliment. What's great about you, Alex, is that you have truly used other providers out there, and I love that we continue to earn your business every time. Love seeing you and ATL Box Score here utilizing our space. So Space is a place where we invite people to work, meet, and connect with other like-minded individuals. We've designed our spaces to help promote creativity as well as networking and just innovative work styles. We have 8,000 square feet of collaborative space on our first floor at our Spaces Midtown East Center. And then we have about 40,000 square feet of private office space of various sizes on our second floor. So come on out, take a free test drive. If you mention Alex or ATL Box Score, we'll give you 5 days for free to come in and check it out for yourself to see what you think of Spaces.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you for those kind words. As always, love working with you and your friendly staff here at Spaces Midtown East. To find out more information, they are just a block north from the Fox Theater. If you've been to the Fox recently, you probably parked in their parking garage. But if you want more information, if you're interested in Spaces, I'm going to put the link to their website in the show description. Check out Spaces Midtown East. Well, just want to say welcome back. We are recording here on a Monday, so if you're checking us out at Monday night or Tuesday, I know you're probably your work day is over and you're one day closer to the weekend. I'm still kind of on a weekend mode because it just feels like this was the weekend that I think a lot of us needed, and this is the weekend that kind of just rescheduled things. It's weird seeing college football end on a Monday, which it usually ends on a Monday, but still, that's kind of weird because you're used to it being on a Saturday. Playoffs are on a Saturday. Also, too, a lot of people just wanted to still see how the playoffs in the NFL were going to shake out, and those ended really interesting. Ooh, that game, man, with Nolans and the Eagles. Whew. Man, I know you're hurting right now if you're a Eagles fan, especially that looks like you came so close but yet so far, and it seemed like New Orleans was like, we will not be denied again, as they went out of the second round last year, I'm assuming. Tweet at me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong about that. But again, we're back to a work week and getting back to work. I know I'm getting back to work. I still have my weekend beard, and I just want to say, dang, it is cold out there. Like I was used to this this mild winter that we were having, but this past weekend and like towards the end of the week last week, it showed up, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, hope you survived the freezing rain. And I know a lot of people were scared about that. It was nothing. And if you're listening, if you're one of the listeners in the North Georgia mountains and you got some snow, like be sure, if you got some snow this weekend, be sure to post that on the Twitter page for ATL Box Score, because we'd love to see that. Tag us in your snow pics. We're just more than a sports media people. We're a life. We're a life media conglomerate. We love talking about life. That's why we have Troy to the World and stuff. But our main thing that unites us together is sports. And the main sport that I love talking about, I'm not going to lie, is college football, and that's over. Now we're into the NFL, and really hard to pay attention, honestly, until yesterday. But now now I'm just grateful that we could be able to broadcast a Monday morning show, because I love Monday morning shows. Usually they're not really favorable for Atlanta sports in general, but this Monday I feel like there's really no skin in the game. So we could be like, yeah, Philly, you're out of it. Oh yeah, life sucks. Or we could be like, let's come on, Todd Gurley. Let's see you do your magic. Come on, Todd Gurley, a former Georgia Bulldog. Let's see you run all over those Aints. Which I think they're going to have a good shot to do that. I'm also intrigued by the Patrick Mahomes Tom Brady matchup part 2. I was trying to speak French there, and I'm like, no, let's not go with the French accent. Part 2. Probably wrong. I'm probably wrong about that. I know that there's probably some French people hating on me right now trying to speak French. But right now, what I want to try to do, and by the way, I just want to say thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. This is, if you wondered what you stumbled upon, this is the ATL Box Score podcast with Alex Berger. And in case you're curious, I am Alex Berger. No Steve Choi today. I usually have my good buddy Steve Choi who joins the podcast and gives a little bit more flavor to it. He's actually on his way to Tybee Island right now, and I'm assuming seeing the great state of Georgia, because on that drive to Tybee, you see a lot of the state than just Atlanta. So he's on his way right now, enjoying the scenery that the great state of Georgia provides. But right now, what I want to do with you guys is, because we call this show Recapping the Weekend, and the way I want to go about these podcasts is I want each show to be special into himself. And the way I thought we could be special is kind of like how Pete Carroll would name his practices different names of the week during a practice. Well, I have different shows for my for my podcast depending on which day of the week. Depending on which day of the week that we do this. I usually do Football Friday. Friday is my last show during the week. And this show is called Recapping the Weekend, because this is the show we're going to talk about what happened during the weekend. And to me, that's kind of the funnest time. And then we have our show during the middle of the week called Pro Style, either Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to figure that out, but that actually helps you get ready for the weekend. And right now, since football season's over, I know a lot of you guys are wanting football information and content or conversation or whatnot. Well, that's why we have Football Friday for you guys. So we're trying to do all facets and cover all Atlanta sports at the same time, and Southeast sports, because we know not everyone that lives in Atlanta is a fan of all the local teams, because you have your own flavor and everything like that. So I get that. But we're still trying to, we're trying to make this fun. We're trying to make this interesting. We're trying to make this different than sports talk radio. So right now, since this show is called Recapping the Weekend, we're going to recap the weekend right now. And we went off the air on Friday around 3-ish. Yeah, I want to say 3-ish. That we recorded everything. We got the show out there around 6. Well, a couple hours later, after our show, and maybe you downloaded it that late at night. I hate putting shows out that late at night. Just FYI for you guys. Let me just take a sip of water here. I got the sip of water done. So the Atlanta Hawks actually got a dub Friday night at the Farm. The Atlanta Hawks got that W against the 76ers of all people. I thought Philadelphia was supposed to be good. Maybe they took a night off. I'm assuming that's how it's going to be when the Atlanta Hawks win a game. No offense or anything like that. But the Hawks prevail 123 to 121. So there was a slight margin of defense that prevented a guy to score 3 points or 2 points to tie the game. I mean, Kevin Hunter had 29 points in that game. So good job, Kev, on that. So that's Friday. That's Friday night for you. That's the big highlight of what happened, that the Atlanta Hawks got a dub. Okay. Moving on to Saturday. Saturday was a whole bag of just sports that were going on. Like, since since college football has finally ended, well, guess what? All the interest right now is in college basketball. And I am going to break down the big winners and the big losers in the ACC. Duke, not surprisingly, but Duke had a close one with Florida State, 80-78. Virginia took care of business against Clemson. The surprising one, though, was that North Carolina lost to Louisville at home, 83-62. Now that has to be really, really disappointing if you're a Tar Heel fan this morning. Sorry, I'm bringing that up. That had. I'm going to talk to my sister tonight, but that has to be that sucked moment. If you're a Tar Heel fan, if I was doing a podcast in North Carolina, where I'm originally from, by the way, yeah, that would be that sucked. That would be that sucked moment. But Georgia Tech and Josh Pastner actually pulled off a pretty huge, yeah, I'll put the word huge, upset, beating the Orange, the Syracuse, 73-59. So, let's switch gears now. Let's go to the SEC. The Dawgs, obviously, they proved that they're still on a rebuilding platform right now with Tom Crane. And I actually found out Tom Crane wasn't traveled to the lovely plains of Auburn on his own. And this is pretty much the basketball version of the Deep South's oldest rivalry, even though probably in basketball it's not that old, because I'm assuming they played football for whatever. Okay. So the Dawgs fall over 20 points to the Auburn Tigers, 93-78. But if you're a Georgia fan, you're liking that Tennessee beat the Florida Gators 78-67. It's always interesting that always in the NBA it's so high scoring, but in college basketball, anyone rarely gets to that 100-yard mark. Vanderbilt played Tennessee really close. Vandy scored 47 points. Wasn't enough to overcome over a 11-point lead by Kentucky, scoring 56. You have Texas A&M and Alabama playing a close one. Texas A&M comes out of that 81-80, which this was the Alabama team that upset Kentucky a couple weeks ago. So that's just how that shook out. And then on top of all that, another local team that's getting some props, that's probably going to hopefully have a good run going into March Madness. I don't see why not. You have Georgia State beating Louisiana Monroe 73-74, which is good. Congrats to the Panthers and Coach Hunter with that. And now for the highlights, probably when it comes to you talk about nationwide, you have the NFL playoffs, which the Chiefs, which I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the matchup. They could play the Patriots, and it looks like they're going to. The Chiefs come out of Arrowhead, or with their hometown, with their home crowd, 31-13. So it's going to be. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. I'm kind of. We're still in Saturday. I don't want to. I don't want to say that. Then on the other hand, the nightcap game with the NFL, you had the Rams going against the Cowboys, which the Rams pretty much Todd Gurley just did what Todd Gurley does, just ran all over them, and the Cowboys came back and made it interesting and all that jazz, but the Rams prevail. Then on Sunday, you have the Patriots. Everyone loves the Patriots, including my brother. Yeah, the Patriots just smacked the Chargers in the face. Just smacked it. Actually, they didn't smack them. They smacked them a couple of times around. You have the Patriots 41-28. And man, if you thought the Chargers were going to keep it close and interesting, you were totally wrong, like I was. Totally wrong. But I want to continue. I want to go back to the NBA because you have. I want to stick with the hometown team because you had the Atlanta Hawks after they beat the 76ers, and let's give them credit, guys. They're playing competitively. They lose to the Bucks 133 to 114. So, good victory at State Farm Arena, and then they lose to the Bucks in State Farm Arena. So that you had a good beginning of the weekend. Now you're kind of sore coming into today. They're definitely sore coming into the gym today in Brookhaven. So, with that, because at this point, I'm not totally paying attention. I'm not totally buying into the NFL playoffs. They're not really that entertaining until last night, which the Houdat Saints beat the Eagles 20-14, and Alshon Jeffries just probably wants to stay in bed today. Because, oh my gosh, that play, like him dropping the ball and the Saints getting that interception, like that's something that that's something that guy is just going to see on film until the first regular season game. That's what he's going to see all offseason. Hopefully that could be a positive, motivating thing. I always try to look positive in things, and maybe that could be a good thing. But I thought it was hilarious, too. I saw on the Today Show that the Hoda Cockby and gosh, I can't remember the other woman just escapes me. But they had a bet that that whoever won that game had to put on that team's apparel and go into the New York subway and just chant. I think the chants that the teams do. I thought that was pretty hilarious, and it wasn't Hoda Kotb wearing a Eagles jersey. It was Natalie Morales. Yeah, Natalie Morales out there wearing a Drew Brees jersey at the subway. It probably looked like they did it last night after the game was over. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is recapping the weekend. Maybe next time we'll add some music to it. but that went longer than I thought it was going to go. So now you're all caught up with what happened in sports, to the locals, to the regional teams, and to stuff that had some nationwide interest with the NFL games. So right now we are going to have Mike Brumagen on the show, a writer for CNN, works for CNN Sports, and we're going to get his thoughts and opinions on how the how the NBA season is going and what you should expect, and that there's a new kid on the block that everyone should take very, very seriously. Here is my conversation with Mike Brumagen. Well, now we just want to welcome to the ATL Box Score podcast, Mr. Mike Brumagen from CNN. I can't believe I screwed that one up. CNN Sports is joining us today and to talk about the NBA and to get his thoughts on how the season's going so far, because I know a lot of people right now, if you're in that kind of football high, well, that football high is kind of gone away, and it's almost time for the Super Bowl, and that usually means around this time of year that we're going to be dominated with basketball until baseball season starts. So this is when a lot of people start getting on the NBA bandwagon if they're not a huge fan. So I thought I'd bring Mike on the show to break it all down for us. And Mike, I just want to wish you a happy New Year, since this is the first time we've got to speak. And how are you doing, man?
Doing okay, man. Doing okay. New year, new family, all that jazz.
That's right, because you just got a new baby girl.
That's right.
Getting those basketball babies.
She is a handful. Yeah, basketball babies. One day. She can barely hold a stuffed animal right now, but one day.
Right. Me and Mike actually go way back with our friendship, and one of the things he said one time is like, I just want to have basketball babies, and I'm like, okay. And I'm just like, then I thought about that. I was like, that should be a Nike campaign for a T-shirt campaign and everything like that. So, but
that should be funny.
That would actually be cool. Had like basketball babies with like the big check at the bottom, like with LeBron James used to have those type of T-shirts. That was like awareness or something. Something that started with a W that was in big letters, and like had a check underneath it. Oh well.
No, I would buy a shirt maybe. It depends on how cute the baby on the shirt is.
Okay. Well, there you go. What have been your impressions so far of the NBA season?
Well, we're about 52% of the way through the season, and that's a really good time to you hear a lot of people having their mid-season reports. We got who's winning the awards this far this season and everything. It's still kind of early to try to predict awards. Well, for the most part, because you got, especially the MVP, you got a lot of guys who are on teams that are really in the thick of things and are playing really well. James Harden won the MVP last year, and he is playing like a monster right now. Actually, since a month ago, almost exactly a month ago, this dude's been tearing it to shreds. He's like had like a 50-point game, a slew of 40-point games. He's averaging actually 40 in that stretch over a course of a whole month. Like, he's just dominating. It's pretty ridiculous. His average is 40.3 since December 11th. So he's if nothing else, he's gunning for the scoring title. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo from Milwaukee. He's been playing like a monster, averaging more than 30 points a game for the season. And so you got a bunch of guys who are like really good. Of course, Kawhi Leonard with the Toronto Raptors. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Wow,
he's also known as the Greek Freak. You may have heard that on SportsCenter.
Right.
They're doing really well. The Bucks are second in the East, and they have the second best record in the league. Of course, the best record in the league goes to the Raptors, who also had like one of the best records last year. Except this year they have Kawhi Leonard, who went there in the off season from San Antonio Spurs. So Kawhi's always been kind of renowned as one of the best players in the league. Except for last year with his whole "I don't want to play because I'm hurt" thing in San Antonio. But now he's killing it up in Toronto, and it's really causing people to like if you follow the NBA, then he'll be a free agent at the end of this year, and there's a lot of teams that would love to have him on their squad. But with as good as things are going in Toronto right now, you kind of question like, well, why would he want to move? He's got a good thing going. This team is really good with him on it. So that's he's in contention for the MVP. It'd be really hard to make a case for any one guy right now because you got another, close to 40 games left in the season. So I couldn't really sit here and say, oh, this guy's for sure going to win the MVP. But the one guy who's run away with things in any award is probably going to be the Rookie of the Year, and that's Luka Doncic. We can talk about that later.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a really fun season. Surprise, you got everybody expected Golden State to be the top team in the league and top team in the West. Actually, they're second. Denver Nuggets are the tops in the West, and they are playing really solid basketball. They're one of the best teams in the league on defense. They had a stretch for like nearly a month where they were holding teams under 100 points, which is really impressive if you consider that the pace for the league is up really. Like the pace right now is the highest it's been in over a decade. Most teams are scoring more than 100 points a game. Even the crappy teams are scoring more than 100 a game.
Right.
So
like
that's how, like, yeah, and part of that's because of the rule changes. This offseason, they made a rule change where in the past, if you missed a shot, but your team got the rebound, the offensive rebound, the play clock would reset to a full play clock, and you get a full 24 seconds. But they made a rule change this offseason where if you get the offensive rebound and your team gets another chance to try to score, instead of getting a full 24-second clock, it just resets to 14. So now you're only getting essentially half of a clock.
Right.
So that forces you to speed up the game. Speeding up the game is more possessions. More possessions means more points. So pace is up and scoring is up across the board.
How does that affect the three-point shot, though? Because usually you need time to set that up, and usually that's Steph Curry's wheelhouse.
The thing is Steph Curry kind of altered the way the game's played, over the past few years, because he has limitless range. He can just pull up from anywhere, and he doesn't need time to get his shot off. He can literally just pull up, just run into his shot. So with the advancement of analytics and crunching numbers, guys like Daryl Morey, who runs the Houston Rockets, they've crunched the numbers, and the way that people approach the game now is basically if you're not shooting threes and you're not getting dunks, then no other shot is really efficient because those people who can score close to the basket or close to the rim, around 60+%. You can. So those are shots. If you're taking shots within 3 feet of the rim, those are very reliable shots. But then outside of 3 feet from the rim, the percentages drop off tremendously. And not that many people it's weird. You would think more people would have more of a what they call a mid-range game where that you could shoot more shots
Right.
in that middle range, but very few guys actually take the time to hone that craft. So the percentages drop well off from close to the rim to the middle range. So when you step back from the mid-range to 3, it's like, okay, well, if I can shoot threes, and this is kind of getting massy on you, but if you could shoot threes at 40%, whereas you shoot twos from the mid-range at 50, well, a 3 is worth more than 2. So if you shot 10 shots in the mid-range, you made 50%, that means you made 5, which is 10 points. If you shot 10 shots from 3 and you made 40%, then that means you're making 40% means you're making 4 out of 10, which is 12 points. So shooting 40% from 3 gives you 2 more points than shooting 50% from 2.
There you go.
Well, when you do that math and you know that, okay, well, if we can get our guys to be able to shoot, collectively at 40% from 3, well, it doesn't make sense to take those mid-range shots anymore because we'll average 2 more points a game shooting 40% from 3. So now everybody's shooting threes.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3-point shooting has seen an uptick across the league, and you have more big guys taking threes. Actually, Denver Nuggets lead the West. They have the best record in the West over the Golden State Warriors, and their big man, their center, Nikola Jokic, is a big reason why he can score it from anyone on the court. He has traditional center abilities. He can shoot in around the basket. He also has a mid-range game. He can shoot middle-range shots, but he can shoot threes. So you got a 7-foot man who can step out and shoot threes with regularity, and that changes the game. When you have big men who can play inside or out, then you can stretch the floor. You can make defenses widen out, and then it makes it easier for guys who can't shoot threes to be able to slash the basket because you have more people around the outside who make the defense have to leave gaps. So it's really, and credit Steph Curry because he, proved that 3-point shooting is like the way to live life.
Mm-hmm.
But the way the game is played has changed over the last 3 years, and there are things that can be annoying as a fan, like things that I actually enjoy a good game of defense.
Mm-hmm.
But when everybody's jacking up 3-pointers, you don't get as much defense because you just get long shots and long rebounds. So some of us who are diehards, that isn't exactly always fun to watch, especially if you're not watching some of the better teams. Better teams is fine because they'll make more of those threes than they miss. But it's taking getting used to.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
I imagine.
Offense sells tickets, so anything that can increase point production, which is why they're changing rules to increase the pace. That it's all going to sell more tickets because people love watching offenses.
But that takes away like the dunk and driving the lane, which that's at least in the Jordan era of the NBA. That's what sold tickets.
It doesn't like the people who are really prevalent at it, the people that are really great at it still can get to the basket because since like I mentioned, since more people are able to shoot threes, defenses are more spread out. So if you have somebody who can create space for himself and drive past a defender, he's going to be able to get to the rim and either get a dunk, get a layup, or get fouled and go to the free throw line. So people who are really good at getting to the basket are still going to be able to get those kind of dunks and flashy plays that are going to drive SportsCenter. What it's done is it's driven down how many no-name guys you see around the basket just taking up time and when we were kids, you had people like George Muresan, who was pretty pathetic. As he's just literally he was in the NBA just because he was tall. He was like 7'5". He was slow. He was cumbersome. He couldn't move. He couldn't jump. But because he's so tall, he could just lift his arms up and block shots, and try to get rebounds. He wasn't even great at rebounding for being that tall because he was so unathletic. Mm-hmm. Well, now you don't have that many guys like that in the league anymore because the pace is up, so you need people who are athletic who can move. So either you have skills and you can shoot, or you're not really in the league. So it's actually improved the league in a way because now, if you don't have a tremendous amount of skill as far as shooting and scoring, you at least have to be athletic to be able to get up and down the court and have some other impact on the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you, let's kind of shift gears a little bit. LeBron James' injury. Now, if you're the Lakers or anyone that has LeBron James, is it kind of a catch-22 because, one, you have the best player on your team in the league, and at the same time you have the best player on your team, so there's a lot of spending room that you have to allocate to LeBron James, but from a team standpoint, when he's not in the game, the team suffers. So what's your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, he's old. He's getting old. He's in his 16th year. He's 34 years old. And he's been to the NBA Finals 8 consecutive years in a row, which means he's played that many more games. He's played more than 150 extra games if you add up all his postseason games, in addition to his regular season games over the past 8 years. That's essentially, he's played a whole nother season and then some on top of the regular 8 seasons he's played in a row. So while other people have only played 8 seasons, he's played essentially 9 and some extra games. So he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body. He's getting older. He's not as athletic. You can see that when he plays now. Like he can still get up and get a good dunk, but he's not as spry. He's not as spry, as he used to be. He used to be able to get up and have his head near the rim. He still can get up there, but it's just not as athletic as he once was. So, if you're the Lakers and he gets, as he did on Christmas Day, wound up essentially pulling a split on the floor. His right leg got away from him. He just slid out and he wound up limping to the sideline. Well, they're like, a pulled groin is bad for most people. A young guy is probably going to miss a week with a pulled groin. Might be able to be back in action after 4 or 5 games, because the younger you are, the quicker you heal. Well, he's already missed 10 games, and they don't expect him to be back until the weekend at the earliest. So he's going to miss another game minimum, which means he will have been out for 11 games. And that's par for the course with someone who's older. You have to give them more time to heal, because especially something like a groin, you don't want to risk that affects his ability to run, his ability to jump. That's going to affect him playing defense, and it's going to affect him rebounding, which is huge parts of his game. So you got to give him time to make sure that he's 100%. You don't want to risk a second groin injury. So they have to be cautious, and that's why he's missing so many games. But the problem with the Lakers is, Rajon Rondo is also injured, and he had surgery to repair a broken finger on his shooting hand. That means you have no true leadership on the court.
Right.
LeBron's not playing. Rajon Rondo's not playing. The rest of the guys who actually dominate the ball, they're all young. They're in their second year or less. You got Lonzo Ball. He was a rookie last year. Kyle Kuzma. He was a rookie last year. Brandon Ingram is in his third year. These guys are the guys who are running the show now, with LeBron and Rajon Rondo sitting on the bench. And these guys are proving not to really have what it takes mentally, I would say, to really get things done with those guys sitting. Like in LeBron's absence over the last 10 games, they are 3-7.
Mm-hmm.
That is not going to cut it. When LeBron went down, they were the 4th seed in the West, and in his absence, they've dropped to the 8th. They're barely clinging to the last spot in the playoffs if the playoffs were to start today. So it's rough.
With you saying that they're in the last spot if the playoffs started today, is there any way the Utah Jazz could possibly get that last seed if the Lakers were out of it?
Well, if it started today, the Lakers would be in. They have the same record, but since it doesn't start today, 2 teams tied for the last spot. All it takes is one team winning, one team losing, and it doesn't even have to be to each other. That would drop the Lakers to 9th and move Utah ahead of them. So they're in a precarious situation. They lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Last night.
Yeah.
They lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are by far the worst team in the league right now.
Right.
Like, easily the worst team in the league. That win was their 9th win of the season. That's how bad they are. We're halfway through the year, and they still don't even have 10 wins.
Yep. That's pretty sad.
Mm-hmm. But it just goes to prove that, like, having savvy leaders, leadership that's smart, can make good decisions, knows how to direct people on the court, tell them where to be. That's really important. And these young guys, I think Alonzo Ball has shown himself to be smart, but he doesn't have the I don't know if it's because he's extremely introverted or what, but he hasn't proven that he's capable of leading other players. Like, he doesn't bark at his teammates and tell them what to do, or, try to run the offense, or, he just stays quiet. He just does his thing. That's not helpful. Like, you need, especially when someone like LeBron or Rajon, when those guys aren't able to play, you need somebody to step up and actually dictate the team. And, for as smart as everybody believes Lonzo to be, he doesn't prove himself to be a leader. And that's, not helping his case to make him valuable to stay on the team. Everybody's looking at him like, the Lakers need a second star to play next to LeBron, and everybody's looking at Lonzo as one of the first people they'd be willing to trade, because in these instances, he doesn't prove himself to be the guy who could take over.
Do you feel like LeBron could get them out of this hole, and possibly by the time the playoffs start, get in that middle range? Because I could see if, like, we went into the playoffs this weekend, they'd be playing the Denver Nuggets in the first round.
Yeah. I think they would take that, because at least that means they wouldn't play Golden State until the Western Conference Finals. So that's the plus side, is, they'd have Denver in the first round, but then they'd have, Golden State in the Western Conference Finals. So they wouldn't have to see them for a while, but they'd still have to go through Denver, and then after that, they'd play the 4 or 5, which would be either Portland or the Clippers right now, which I could see them winning the second round matchup against Portland or the Clippers, but playing Denver, especially if they're not healthy, would not be good for them right now. They don't have enough shooting, which is a big part of the problem, is when LeBron sits, because LeBron is actually one of their better shooters, and he's like fine line. He's gotten better at shooting as his career has progressed. In his later years, he's actually been at his best shooting the ball from range. But he's also the guy that runs the offense. So if he's one of your best shooters then that means you have problems. That's why you see teams like Miami and Cleveland, when they had LeBron, they went out of their way to stock up on shooters and surround him with shooters. You know, guys like Mike Miller or Ray Allen or, you know, Kyle Korver. They would find guys like that to fill out the roster so that you could space the floor, create room for him to be able to move and operate and get to the basket easily, but also give people he could trust and rely on to hit those shots. You know, if he drives the basket and the defense converges on him and he's got 2 or 3 guys coming at him, well, he's got to be able to trust that, you know, when he passes out, Lonzo Ball's going to make a shot, much less take one. Lonzo, are you familiar with, you know, Shaqtin' a Fool?
Yes, I do. Yes, I am familiar with that.
So Lonzo's been on there a couple of times for not taking shots. So he'll be in situations where he could easily take a layup by himself. No defender in front of him. And instead of taking the layup, he tries to make a pass because he's, I guess, skittish or you know, afraid of taking the shot and missing. And he forces a pass instead and then causes a turnover. Mm-hmm. Like, well, if you're wide open and LeBron passes it to you, you better take it and make it. Well, this kid doesn't even want to take shots, so that causes problems.
Right.
So if they're going to make moves and they want to really have an impact in the postseason, at the bar minimum, I don't know that they'll be able to get a second star player at the trade deadline, and they would have to give up enough talent that it would get their roster right now. So the most feasible, you know, path that they could try to take is try to acquire some shooters, just to add some depth and some more shooting to their team, so that when LeBron passes the ball, he has guys that he can trust are actually going to make the shot.
Right. Now
as is, it's a playoff start right now. Even if LeBron was back and healthy, I don't know that they would get past the second round.
Wow.
Just because they don't have enough shooting right now.
Right.
Kyle Kuzma is their second best player with LeBron right now, and if LeBron is sitting on the bench, then Kyle Kuzma is hit or miss. Like the other night, he had a great, you know, career high in points. He had like 41 points or something like that in 3 quarters. You know, he could have gone for 50 if he kept playing, but they were blowing the team out. Mm-hmm. But then the very next night after that, they play against a veteran team that knows how to play defense in the Nuggets, and Kyle Kuzma is limited to like 11 points. You know, only made 4 shots. So it's you know, hit or miss. You know, with because when LeBron's on the court, at the very least, the best defender isn't going to be guarding Kyle Kuzma. The best defender will be guarding LeBron. But even when LeBron's healthy, if he sits down to take a rest, that best defender is going to be guarding whoever the next best guy is. And right now, you know, it's either Brandon Ingram or Kyle Kuzma, and they don't have the consistency to be able to still get shots or, you know, still make shots without having someone like LeBron taking the attention of the defense. So that could cause problems in a playoff series.
Right. Well, I just want to touch on this real quick because back before the season started with the NBA, it looked like that it was pretty much going to be Golden State and the Lakers, and you'd probably have Houston in there and the Nuggets. No one, I don't think, predicted how dominant the Nuggets were going to be. People thought that they were going to be a good team, but you didn't think that they were going to be this dominant. But you pretty much thought it was going to be those teams in the West, and in the East, it was pretty much Boston's to take. But now Boston is in the middle of the playoff pack right now. They're not as dominant as we thought they're going to be. Why don't you think they're? Why are they having issues there in Boston?
So when we saw Boston last year and they were playing some of their best ball, what was wrong with them? They were hurt. Gordon Hayward missed the whole season last year. He got injured in the very first game of the season, and then down the stretch, headed into the playoffs, Kyrie Irving got hurt. So you had the team being run by your Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, those guys. They were running the team, and they were free and open to be able to play however they want. You know, they were running Brad Stevens, who is a great coach. They were running his system. Everybody was involved. There's more ball movement. You know, and when you have a team with that much talent, if you can play a system where everybody feels like they're involved and everybody's a part of it, especially on offense, then everybody's going to be happier. There's going to be more joy. You know, and you could see that in the way they were playing last year. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals where they lost in 7 games to the LeBron James and the Cavaliers without Kyrie Irving or Gordon Hayward. Well, now this year, both Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving are healthy. They're both playing, which means they're taking minutes away from those young guys, which is stunning their growth and their ability to develop. And they're taking up the ball. They're dominating the ball, especially Kyrie. Kyrie literally lives on the ball, which means these guys are able to play loose and free the way they were last year in the playoffs. So, you know, we're looking at them looking in the future, like seeing the way they were playing last year in the playoffs, and we're thinking, man, these young guys are super talented. They're going to be phenomenal when everybody's healthy. We're not factoring in that, you know, when everybody's healthy, the ball's going to stop, and it's not going to keep rotating all the time. It's not going to get to these young guys, and they're not going to have the same opportunities. And so that's causing some headaches, you could say, in the locker room. That's causing issues with how the young guys, you know, they won't say it publicly, but you know that's causing issues with how they're playing. And then in the midst of losing and not playing up to expectations, it's causing guys like Kyrie to speak his mind and say things that are kind of shots at the young guys on the team.
Right.
You know, like we could rewind back to November, way back in November when they started the season, you know, on kind of a losing skid. Back in November, on November 11th, he said this. He said, right now I think it would be nice if we had someone that was a 15-year vet, a 14-year vet that could kind of help us race along the regular season and understand it's a long marathon rather than a full-on sprint. That's a shot at the young guys on the team.
Yeah.
Saying that you would rather have and the irony is he left that situation. He was in a situation where he had that in Cleveland. He had LeBron James running the show and a roster full of veterans. You know, and they knew to pace themselves during the regular season. They knew to not try to, you know, burn themselves out each and every game. He had that where he was, but he wasn't happy. He forced his way out, got traded to a team with a lot of young talent, and now he's complaining about it. So it's just kind of ironic. And then just recently, a couple of days ago, Kyrie went on a rant about the young guys again. And just a snippet of what he said. He said, the young guys don't know what it takes to be a championship-level team, what it takes every day. And if they think it's hard now, what do you think it will be like when we're trying to get to the finals? And I laughed at that when he said that, because it's like, dude, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and were one win away from going to the finals last year without you.
Yeah.
It's like he's not willing to look in the mirror and see that he's a big part of the problem. And he keeps crying about how they need more veteran leadership, but he doesn't look in the mirror and say, oh, wait, I'm the 10-year vet. I should be the veteran leader. You know, like 10 years. I think he's been like 8 years, but he's been in there long enough. You know, that's the point. It's like, you know, dude, you went there. They traded for you so that you could be the guy.
It's kind of like when your older brother goes off to college, and you're still at the house.
Yeah, it's like you're supposed to run the show. That's what you wanted,
right?
And you're not doing it.
Right.
And you're just complaining about the other guys. Well, if you want to play differently or act differently, you need to find it within yourself to be a better leader to help them do that.
Yeah.
But you're not. Clearly, since you've been complaining about the same thing since the beginning of the year, clearly you are not a good leader. And you need to assess, is this the kind of situation you really want to be in? Which I don't think he does. So to me, if I were the Celtics, I'd be looking at like, hey, do we really want to keep Kyrie? Is he in our best interest long term? I would actually be shopping him. I'd be looking to trade Kyrie because you could get more assets. You could, get guys who you could trade them and get a couple guys or more, draft picks, whatever you want, and fill out your roster with guys that are going to fit your system and actually play better alongside the young guys that you have. Those young guys are your future. You don't want to mortgage that just to try and make Kyrie happy.
Yeah,
especially when he can walk in the off season. So
yeah,
I don't know if Boston is long for Kyrie very, very much.
Well, speaking of Kyrie complaining about veteran leadership, I actually want to talk now about a young 19-year-old rookie in Luka Doncic, which the Atlanta Hawks what was it? Doncic. Okay. Some reason I heard it the other way around. Luka Doncic.
It's because it's European. It's pronounced different.
Gotcha. But yeah, Mike, the Hawks had him at one time. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we drafted him.
That's right.
We drafted him with the third. We drafted him with the third pick. We trade him immediately to Dallas for Trae Young and a bag of beans.
But now he's tearing it up and looks like he could possibly be the MVP of the league this year.
I wouldn't say MVP, but he's definitely gonna be the rookie of the year. The kid is phenomenal. He's got moxie. He's a leader. Even at the age of 19, he is the leader on his team. Even Dirk Nowitzki, who is probably playing his last year in the league because he's so old and so not healthy.
Right.
Dirk Nowitzki said that when it's clutch time, when it's at the end of the game, Luka Doncic is their go-to guy. Dirk acknowledged that. That's what Dirk used to be in his prime. He was the go-to guy in the clutch. But now this rookie 19-year-old kid is their go-to guy when it matters. And he's got that fire, yo. He is everything that anybody could have wanted out of rookie. This kid is fearless. I mean, in the closing minute, he is the second best player in the league in shooting percentage in the clutch time, which is clutch is considered the last 2 minutes of the game. He is second best in shooting percentage. He is killing it, dude. I got League Pass, so I watch a lot of basketball in general, but the Mavericks, whether they're playing a game that it looks like they're going to lose or not, I'm watching Mavericks games a lot because of this kid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In the clutch time, he's just to give you a window of what he's doing, he had a game against the Rockets back in December. He went on an 11-0 run by himself to close out the game and get the win over Houston.
Wow.
Just recently, on January 11th, the Mavericks played the Minnesota Timberwolves. This kid scored 7 of Dallas's final nine points in the last less than 90 seconds of the game to help them win the game, including having made 3 go-ahead shots in a row to put them up.
Dang.
He's fearless, dude. It is really fun to watch.
Now, do you feel like Dallas is going to put the franchise tag on him, or is it too soon for that?
This is basketball. They don't have a franchise tag. That doesn't exist in the NBA. If it did, they would.
But say it did, just for a second.
If the franchise tag existed, they would definitely put that on him. But it doesn't. So they're going to wait for his rookie contract to come to an end, and then they're going to offer him a max a max level extension, and he's going to earn it.
Gotcha.
So he's not as athletic or as quick as some guys, but he's smarter. Like the way he approaches the game, the way he runs the offense, you can see him thinking like steps ahead of other people. Like he is literally like a kid prodigy, out there in the NBA.
How long of a career do you think this guy's going to have in the NBA?
As health permitting, and that's as with any guy. If he had no major injuries, I could see him having a long, 18, 20-year career, just like, his idol who he's playing with, Dirk Nowitzki. In the NBA, you don't have to be the most athletic person to have an influence on the game if you're smart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, even though he's in his 16th year and his athleticism is declining, people still consider LeBron the best player in the league because he's still the smartest in the league. Mm-hmm. There's not a single person who's smarter than LeBron James on a basketball court. Mm-hmm. And that matters because you know what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And, skills like passing, knowing when to pass and where to find people, those are things that you can't be taught. Like, you can learn the basics of passing, but having great vision, seeing kind of like a quarterback, see the field, that's not something you can teach. And this kid has it. Mm-hmm. He reminds me a lot of like a young LeBron James. Just
interesting.
Minus the athleticism.
What about,
and that's not to say that he can't get up. He can dunk on you. He just isn't going to fly through the air. He actually, the other night, he scored 25 points, had 10 assists, which actually made him the youngest player since LeBron James to do that.
Are there any comparisons to like Larry Bird? Or do you think he's a different player?
If I were going to make a comparison to Bird as far as Doncic, it would be the confidence. Because Bird was one of the most confident players ever. And we're talking about a guy who played in either the very first or the second three-point contest at the All-Star break. You can't remember if it was the first year they did it or the second year, but he went into the locker room not even dressed and ready to shoot. He went in there in his regular clothes, showed up, looked at the other guys, and said, "All right, who's coming in second?" That's the confidence level that Larry Bird had. He just knew he was going to win, and he did. And he didn't even take his warm-up jacket off when he won. He shot his threes with his warm-up jacket on.
Wow.
And this kid has that kind of confidence. Like, he's not afraid of the big moments. He's not afraid to take the shots. Last night they were in the thick of it against the Golden State Warriors. Like, they lost by 5 points. And they had many opportunities to go ahead. The shots just didn't fall. And that's going to happen. You have games where the shots just don't go down. But this kid was the one who was taking the shots. He missed two really great looking 3-pointers. They looked good, but they went in and out. And that's the best you can ask is, he's able to create a good look for himself. He has a really clean looking step back shot. So, this kid is the future, man. And as an Atlanta person, someone who lives in Atlanta, that kind of makes me even more frustrated. I wanted them to draft him when they passed up on him and traded him for Trae Young. Mm-hmm. I was mad then, and now seeing this kid play for half a season, I'm more mad now. So I'm like, y'all see what you gave up, right? You see what you did. And the sad part is Trae Young isn't bad. He's not a bad player. He's a phenomenal passer. That's probably his best asset. Is he's a really good passer. He's a good player. He's going to be a good player in the league, but Doncic is better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, since you're a little bit closer to the situation, and I know that you could probably see State Farm Arena from your office, since you're down there in that part of downtown more than I am, what is going on with the Atlanta Hawks? Do you feel like they are on a 5-year rebuilding plan, 10-year rebuilding plan, 20-year rebuilding plan? Like, or is there even a plan in place to get the Hawks back into a playoff spot?
Well, definitely the way that Travis Schlenk is running things. There is a plan. I don't like the plan. It's obvious from the way he ran the draft. Trading away Luka to get Trae Young, who people were saying was like a cheap knockoff version of Steph Curry, and then later on taking Kevin Huerter, who a lot of people compare to Klay Thompson, also from Golden State, and Travis Schlenk himself coming from Golden State. Like, it seems to be obvious that their plan is to try to build a Golden State-like team, but you can't replicate the way Golden State came together so organically and so naturally. And those guys developed their skills, and the circumstances of their careers happen in such a way where they're able to build that team the way they did in such a random happenstance that you can't really expect to be able to rebuild that kind of team. Like, I think coming out of college, everybody knew Steph Curry could shoot threes because he did it in college at Davidson. He killed it in the tournament, March Madness. He went longer shooting threes in the tournament. So everybody knew he could shoot threes, but then he wound up having a lot of ankle injuries. He had multiple surgeries on his ankles. Well, the thing that did that was fortunate for Golden State is, A, it kept them not that good, which means they were getting good draft picks. And B, it meant that when it was time for his contract to renew, his contract got renewed at a cheaper price. So they had more flexibility financially to be able to keep these other talented players and acquire, that's the whole reason why they were able to get Kevin Durant the year that they got him. They got Kevin Durant because, they had both Draymond Green and Klay Thompson still on rookie contracts, and Steph Curry's contract was cheap because he had injuries. So he still had enough cap flexibility to be able to afford Kevin Durant.
Right.
So the idea that you could try to inorganically just draft some players and try to put together a whole nother Golden State is kind of ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
Do you feel like this year they're strategizing for the draft just to see if they can get that top lottery pick or a player in that top 5?
That's the thing, is like you would think that they would be trying to lose more, but they play every game competitive, and they got a handful of games that they've actually beaten really good teams that they have no business beating, because they give these young guys the green light to just go out and shoot, and they're streaky. They're not great shooters, not by any means. Well, Kevin Huerter is actually pretty good. He shoots 38% from three. But Trae Young takes the most shots, and he shoots 28.9% from three. That's abysmal by NBA standards. But he's going to, as much as he shoots, he's going to have nights where he just hits. That's how it goes. If you have for every 2 or 3 bad games you have, you're going to have one where you look really great and you hit a lot of shots. So being that they let these guys take shots and, just do their thing, these guys go out and they wind up winning games that they shouldn't. They've beaten the Sixers. They just beat the Sixers, Friday. They've beaten Minnesota, who was a playoff team last year. They've beaten Denver, who's the best team in the West. They beat them back in December. They lost by 1 point to the Lakers with LeBron James. They beat the Spurs back in October. They lost by just a few points to the Warriors. They lost by 3 points to the Raptors. They're in really close competitive games with really good teams just because they shoot threes, you know, and they have energy. They're young and they can run, and you know, when your guys are tired and go sit on the bench, they're still out there running.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's keeping them in games, and that means that they're winning more than they should be losing if they're trying to get the first pick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Currently, they have the 5th worst record in the NBA, which means they have the 5th worst odds to get the top pick. So, yeah.
Yeah, because right now they're pretty much middle of the pack when it comes to teams out of a playoff spot in the East.
Yeah, the Cavaliers are clear runaway favorites to get the top pick. You know,
yeah.
Fortunately, there's a lottery, so it's not guaranteed. But
right.
You know,
it's not
everybody's looking at Duke and they're looking at Zion Williamson, and everybody's like getting thirsty. And the Hawks need to get more thirsty. That's how I feel right now. I'm like, look, if y'all are serious about trying to get better, you need to get more thirsty. You need to start losing more.
Yeah. Lloyd,
it's fun to watch. They're fun to watch. They don't attract much of a crowd because they're not good, but they're fun to watch.
Last thing, because we definitely gone over our time limit. But Lloyd Pierce, I just want to get your thoughts on him as the Hawks head coach. How do you feel that he's done this season?
All things considered, I think he's doing fine. I mean, when you look at all those competitive games that I mentioned earlier, look at them, hanging tough with top teams in the league, hanging tough with teams like the Warriors, with the Raptors, beating teams like the Nuggets, considering their lack of talent, considering how young they are, that's about all you can really ask, is that they show up and be competitive, and they're doing that. So really it's going to take a couple of years, I think, to really assess how good he actually is as a coach, because we're going to need to see Atlanta get some more talent, get some more talent, get somebody like Zion Williamson or somebody like that in the draft, that's going to be a superstar, a legit superstar. I don't know that Trae Young's going to be a superstar. He hasn't really shown it. He's going to be a phenomenal passer. We know that. His passing ability is really good. But in today's age, I don't know if that's enough to qualify somebody as being a superstar. Passing alone, you got to be able to score, and he's not consistent enough right now as a scorer. So they're gonna have to go out and get some guys that can do that, who can be reliable scorers, and someone that can be a superstar and can sell tickets. And so once they get some more talent like that, whether it be through free agency or whether it be through draft, and they have, the kind of talent that we could expect wins from, then we'll get to see what he can do as a coach and see, how's he going to make, adjustments down the stretch against a veteran team with, talent that can, we could actually expect to make shots. Mm-hmm. Right now, they're still playing competitive, and, they're, I think he's done a really great job. They've proven down the stretch that they can, if they're tight in a game, that, they have the moxie to try to make a comeback or make things close or even win games late. They've done that a few times. But I want to see what he can do when he actually has better talent.
Well, thank you, Mike, for joining the show today. Just threw a lot of NBA stuff at us because, well, we haven't really been talking about the NBA, so this kind of made up for all that. But where could we find you to read some of your articles and to check out your stuff?
I would say Twitter, but I've been inactive lately since I recently had a newborn baby. Yay, baby. So you're not going to find any recent tweets from me right now. Right now I'm just, outside of doing work on my job, cutting highlights and that sort of thing. I've been pretty pretty much off the radar for the past month. But once things settle down, I'll probably get back to being more active and trying to write more.
Okay.
Just baby is dominating the life. But it's a good thing. She's super adorable.
Okay. But what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is at @mbrumagen.
Okay.
MBRUMAGIN.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, for being on the show today.
No
Thank you
problem,
guys for checking us out, especially if you're a first-time listener. We're going to try our best not to spend too much time on this outro, but that was recapping the weekend, and it was a pretty interesting weekend with sports, which college basketball, NFL, and the NBA. So that's the big ones right now. And after this weekend and after the Super Bowl, that is here actually in Atlanta, we're only going to have basketball until soccer season starts. Or for some people, we'll have basketball until baseball season starts. But this is where we need your help. And especially we appreciate if you're listening to this part of the show. We need your help because we are a startup podcast. This is something that I was actually with the sports information website, and I decided that it was time for me to go on my own and do my own thing. And with that, it took a little bit of a loss financially a little bit. And I didn't lose a lot, but at the same time, this is something that I want to be able to do, and this is something that I want to be able to to do podcasts, to do sports podcasts in particular. I've always wanted my sports show, but you guys can help me out with that. I do have a fundraising website called Patreon. Maybe some of you've heard it. It's more for the artsy type of crowd. I'll just put it that way. So if you like what you heard and you like me, well, we'd appreciate if you could donate to help making the show run and be more successful and get more exposure. But if you can't donate, there's another way you could help us out. Give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Also, like, subscribe on iTunes, on Podbeam, on our YouTube page. We get, every time we have like something about Georgia Tech, I don't know what it is about Georgia Tech and YouTube, a big YouTube crowd, a big YouTube audience sees the podcast. So that's another way you can access the show too. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. We're trying to figure out iHeartRadio thing. We're trying to figure out Podcast One. That today was actually the first time I actually ever got introduced to that. So we're going to try to figure out how to get on those platforms. But in the meanwhile, the way you can help us out is just to like us everywhere. Give us a 5-star review if you think we deserve it, which I hope we do, because we put a lot of work and effort into this show. And also, like us. I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah, hit the like button wherever you see it on social media or wherever. So, because we're trying to get all over the internet, which we're being pretty successful at it, and we're trying to. Right now, we're in a stage where we want to just grow an audience. So, if this is the first time you listen to it, thank you for listening to my crazy world of sports sports and life in general. So, thanks again, guys. Hopefully this got you through your work day. To Tybee Island, which Detroit is on right now. So, be sure to support the show in those ways. I've been listening consistently, or just you like the show. I hope that you like it because I try to be as likable as possible. That's probably an insecurity of mine. So, we appreciate that, and with that, because I feel like I've covered all the bases now. Episode 17.